I'm not typically one for overreactions, but I think it's safe to say Nathan Peterman is easily the greatest quarterback in NFL history. Okay, maybe not quite that, but I actually thought that he looked pretty competent out there. I mean, listen, 66 yards in 12 attempts, that's not necessarily spectacular. 5.5 yards per attempt, that's definitely relatively low. But he also in 3 carries rushed for 56 yards, and most of that going on 1 rush. So I thought as a whole, at least statistics wise, he was actually alright. And he also threw 1 touchdown and no interceptions, so there you go. But of course, as I keep mentioning, you can't really look at statistics in the preseason too much just because the competition isn't level and there's so many different factors that go into actually what your statistics are going to be. You have to watch the tape, and you know what? I won't bury the lead. I'll start things off with his big run of the night. It was one of the most fun plays that has happened so far this preseason, and it's great to watch. So let's break it down. This is actually man coverage. It's going to be a cover 1 robber, and so it's 3rd down and 5, so Peterman has to make sure that he gets at least 5 yards on this play. And there is a way they can do that just by that route right there, It's a simple route right over the middle, and this can actually be a decent way to beat a cover 1 robber, but there's a couple of ways it could go wrong. The first way, of course, is just if the receiver doesn't win their one-on-one matchup. But the other way would be if the other safety who's going to be breaking in is making sure that he covers up that route. Because if that happens, Peterman will have to wait and then make a throw a little bit later on in the route. And because that is what's going to happen, Peterman will have to wait just an extra second to try to get this route to be open. However, this didn't work in the first way either, where as you see right now, that receiver he's not open right now. He didn't win his one-on-one matchup, it happens, but that's the situation right now. However, for Peterman, this play is not over, mostly because of that edge rusher right there, who was actually on the top half of the screen, not on the bottom half of the screen. He just got completely pushed behind Peterman. So for Peterman, he's going to run up to the top half of the screen since there's no containment, and now he has a couple of options. The first of which would still be to make this throw, but as you see right now, he's outside the pocket, so his receiver is going to say, you know what, I'm just going to start blocking, I'm not open anyways, so might as well just block. Hopefully Peterman will be able to run and pick up the first down. Peterman is a good runner. I mean, you have to give him credit for that. This guy is a guy who can use his feet. That is a part of his game. And as you see, Peterman, he runs over, picks up the first down. Great play by Peterman. However, then something weird is going to happen. With every Rams defender close to the top half of the screen, just because that's the way the routes went, Peterman actually has a lot of open space in the middle of the field. He's going to break back in, and he actually has some pretty great speed on this one, and he nearly even gets in for a touchdown. I mean, that's just an absurdly great run by a quarterback, and I wouldn't have expected Nathan Peterman to be the guy who pulled it off. I mean, again, listen, I know this guy's become a meme. I'm not sure if you guys have all watched my last video on Nathan Peterman, but I don't think this guy is necessarily the worst quarterback ever to play or anything like that. He's actually a very smart player, but just physically, he's just not as good of a thrower as most of the guys in the NFL. That's why he was able to be a pretty successful college player, and is even able to be pretty successful in the preseason. However, in the regular season, he sometimes just missed some throws that are still correct decisions, but he just missed the throw, and that's what results in an interception. I mean, we can make all of our jokes all we want. Listen, I've made my share of Nathan Peterman jokes just like anybody else, but the fact of the matter is, in my opinion, he's not a terrible player. I even said in my first Nathan Peterman video, I can see this guy being a somewhat successful backup in the NFL. I don't see him ever being a starter, but backup, sure. There's a reason he beat out Tyrod Taylor and Josh Allen for the starting job. He beat them both out in 2 separate seasons. It didn't go too well once he did get the starting job, but he did, earn the starting job multiple times. And there's also a reason why John Gruden has selected him to be on their roster. The guy can play. Like on this play, it's going to be a slant route to the inside, obviously man coverage, as there's only going to be one Ram in that area, and so Peterman is going to look to throw in that direction. One thing I actually really like about this play from Peterman is look at how quick he gets into his throwing stance, almost instantly, and that's not always so easy to do. Sometimes guys are a little bit slow in getting up there, but Peterman, he's not wasting any time. Takes a snap, gets his shoulder square right away. Very good job by Peterman. And his receiver does have leverage, however there's one problem, and it's going to be that Ram right there. He's a defensive lineman, but all he has to do is get his hands up and can easily knock the ball away, or potentially knock it up and have it result in an interception. It's a dangerous play. But Peterman makes a perfect throw, and that's what results in a touchdown. I mean, again, that defender was definitely close to tipping it, but he wasn't quite able to do it. Peterman made a great throw, and it was a touchdown. I mean, give him credit when credit is due. This guy made some good throws. And personally, you know me, I love it. I'm always on Team Chaos. I love when these kind of things happen. And plus, I always felt kind of bad for the guy. I mean, while the Nathan Peterman memes definitely are pretty funny, so I can't get on my high horse too much, I do really feel bad for the guy. I mean, listen, he does something that very few people are able to do, and that's play in the NFL. I mean, that's an incredible accomplishment. He's worked his entire life to get there, and so for him to kind of become a joke, I mean, you do have to kind of feel bad for him a little bit. So, it's sort of like the thing with Daniel Jones. In the scheme of things, one preseason game means nothing, but at least for a story, it's kind of a cool story that Peterman was able to have a successful, half of a game in a preseason. And again, I think fundamentally, Peterman actually is a pretty good football player, especially for his age. Personally, I just don't think his talent level is there. I don't think his ceiling is high enough for him to be starter level quality. But do I think his ceiling is high enough for a potential backup level quality? I do. I really do. Maybe I'm delusional, but I do think he can at least be a decent backup. Granted, Oakland already has a pretty solid backup in Glennon, but hey, now you have 2 backups. That doesn't hurt anything. Anyways, take a look at this play. It's going to be play action, and have a receiver just running right over there. It's going to run 2 steps and then look back. It's a very simple route. Peterman isn't even going to fully sell this play action, actually. He'll take a step back and start to sell the play action, but then just turn around and try to make a throw. But look at his footwork here. Look at how quickly he's able to turn his body around and get to that Oakland Raiders receiver. Fundamentally, this is great, because you look at how quick he was able to do that. This now means that Oakland Raiders receiver is very open. I mean, there's definitely a lot of space in between him and the corner. I mean, this play is actually going to go for a lot more yards than it was actually designed to. This was just supposed to create a second down and medium situation, but it worked out pretty well. And a large part of that was just a receiver making a good play, but part of it was Nathan Peterman getting it to the receiver so he could make a good play. Peterman does the little things well. He messes up on the big things quite often, but he does the little things pretty well. That's why he's on an NFL team right now. These aren't plays that you're going to say, wow, how did he manage to do that? But these are competent NFL level plays. These are plays that make you say, oh, okay, fine job. With the exception of that run, which was just crazy, none of these plays are really too big of highlight reel type plays. But you don't need a backup who's going to make highlight reel level plays. You need a backup who can just do their job, and Peterman, for the most part, can kind of do his job. At least he did, in this preseason game. Listen, I'm also not going to ignore the fact that this guy has thrown interceptions on, seemingly every drive he's ever been a part of. So, I can't just ignore that. But again, that's when you get into sample size and things of that nature, so I'm just going to focus on this game for right now. He used his running ability a couple of times in that preseason game, and this one was another one. It's going to be a 3rd down and 8, and what the Rams are doing is they're going to be running a cover 3 zone here. So one thing you'll see once this play develops is that all the Rams are staying pretty far deep, and understandably so. The logic behind it is pretty simple. It's that if there is a throw deep down the middle of the field, well then you have a lot of Rams that can make the play. If Peterman throws a dump off, well then you can run up and make the tackle. However, for Peterman, he also sees that there's a big gap right in front of him, and he can't potentially run and try to pick up this first down. And granted, it doesn't quite work out. He actually got chased from behind. I think there's a real chance he does get the first down if he doesn't get brought down from behind like that. But I don't hate that play from Peterman at all. Nothing was open, so why not just give yourself a chance and try to pick up the first down? Especially if you're a 3rd string quarterback, it's okay if you take a hit or two, You don't have to be 100% every single game like a starting quarterback might try to be. Usually I'm big on a quarterback protecting themselves. You have to make sure to keep yourself protected. But hey, if Derek Carr and Mike Glennon are both out for 1 week and Peterman is just going to play for 1 game, well then maybe he should, just lay your body out on the line, because if you get hurt, it's not the end of the world. Whereas if Derek Carr were to have a severe injury, then the Oakland Raiders would be in pretty big trouble. I definitely think probably Peterman's biggest shining moment was the fact that he was able to use his legs to, help him out. I mean, that's important. It kind of reminds me of Ryan Fitzpatrick a little bit, where it's like, listen, you might not be Michael Vick out there, but you can always use your legs to help you to a degree. As long as you can run, that can still be effective, and Peterman can run. Like this one was another example. It's going to be a play action, but then Peterman is going to hook around to the bottom half of the screen and try to throw somewhere in the bottom half of the screen in that direction. That's the way this play is supposed to work. And as you'll see once the ball is snapped, his back is actually going to end up getting pretty open. And again, this is a 3rd down and 2, so you're not trying to pick up a ton of yards, you're trying to pick up 2 yards. And also, Peterman is on the run here. Peterman, while on the run, is able to make a pretty perfect throw, and they pick up the first down. Listen, I get that this is not necessarily the most difficult play, but if you want to be a backup quarterback, you have to be able to make these plays, and give Peterman credit for being able to make that play. This next play is going to be a cover 3 zone, and the Raiders are going to have 2 routes going deep down there. However, nothing is really going to get open. I mean, after this ball is snapped and the play develops, nothing is open. If you look at Peterman, he's still looking downfield, but he doesn't have a receiver he wants to throw to. And not just that, but now once again, there's going to be a Ram who's going to create some pressure. So now Peterman he's in a bit of trouble here. So for Peterman, there's a couple of things he could do, one of which is just hit that Oakland Raider player right there who's wide open in the middle of the field. I know that seems obvious, but it's actually not that obvious when that's your last read on the play. You have a certain read that you want to get open, you're watching it the whole time, but at the last second it doesn't get open. It's kind of hard to get off that read and go on to a different read. And especially when you're on the run. But Peterman is still able to do it. He makes a good throw on the run, and they pick up a first down. Again, pretty solid play by Peterman. Honestly, what I want in a backup quarterback really is a guy who's not going to screw things up more so than a guy who's going to win you football games. The reality is, I think a backup quarterback, for the most part, will almost never win a Super Bowl unless it's a Nick Foles type situation where the backup quarterback just goes off in the playoffs. And I know it's happened a few more times, but for the most part, it's rare for a backup quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Really, the reason why you want a quality backup quarterback is, what if Derek Carr goes down for 4 games? Granted, they have Mike Glennon ahead of Peterman, so that's kind of a bad example, but let's just say they don't have Mike Glennon. If Carr goes down for 4 games, can Peterman go 2-2? That'll keep the season alive for Carr, who now when he comes back, he still has a chance to make the playoffs. That's what made guys like Jacoby Brissett and Jimmy Garoppolo valuable with the Patriots. They combined to go 3-1 with the Patriots. That was, of course, back when Brady was suspended for 4 games, but because of the good backup situation, when Brady came back, they weren't really in any trouble. If they had a bad backup situation, they might have gone 1-3, and then they could have maybe even potentially, not gotten a bye week, which for the Patriots is basically the equivalent of a terrible season. So, was Peterman great last night? Well, he had his ups and downs, I guess. He definitely had his moments, and I would say that he was competent, but he also had some mistakes. Like, if we take a look at this one, it's going to be a cover 1 hole. And that's actually good news on paper for the Raiders, is to have a receiver running a go route right there on the sidelines. So, on paper, that is the route that Peterman should try to throw to. So after the ball is snapped, there's really not a lot that's going to happen that's too great for Oakland. If you see at this still shot, this could have easily been an interception. And in fairness to Peterman, actually his assigned defensive back did a great job of, at first he was turned around, but did a great job of looking back up, seeing the ball, and making a play on the ball. He eventually knocks it away, as you see on the screen. So that was well done by him, so it was a great defensive play, but also, those are the types of plays that result in interceptions, and Peterman should know that at this point. That's far from a terrible play either, so, again, he kind of was competent last night. He wasn't spectacular in any direction. He wasn't spectacularly good. He wasn't spectacularly bad. He was just competent. If you're into meme-making business, well then maybe that's not the best news. However, if you're an Oakland Raiders fan, that probably is good news. That's what you would like to see. Listen, this guy's a 3rd-string quarterback, and the fact that we're talking about him is kind of silly. It's all because of the memes that he's even getting talked about. But at the same time, it's kind of just fun to watch where his career goes. This has never happened before. There's never been a meme quarterback like Nathan Peterman before. It just never happened. That's why I'm breaking it down. I'm just fascinated by this whole situation, and I'm assuming that's why you guys are watching this video, because you're fascinated by this whole situation. But, I'm rooting for the guy. It would be so awesome if he turned out to be like a great starting level quarterback or something. It'll never happen, but it would be pretty great. But yeah, everyone made fun of the Raiders for picking up Nathan Peterman, but he's a fine 3rd-string quarterback. There's nothing really wrong with him, and that's what I think at least. As always, I'd like to know what you guys think, and also, as always, thanks for watching.